Happy New Year. Welcome back to First and Short. We're starting 2026 with no Bama, no Ohio State, or UGA in the college football playoffs. I bet this wasn't in your 2025 bingo cards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to First and Short, your first place to get short bits of college football news and analysis. Today, we are being hosted by Aaron, my co-host, and myself, Mashfik. We had a great, first season. Now we're trying to start 2026 off strong. We didn't reach our 300 subscriber goal, but let's get that done here in January. January, obviously, the season wraps up, and then we have a lot of content planned to bridge us between this season and next season. But we want to see that growth continue. So please follow, please share, please subscribe. We really appreciate that. So what's on the agenda for today? We're going to give some overall thoughts on the quarterfinals. We gave some really good instant reactions and breakdowns over the weekend as games were finishing up. Those were like 10-minute episodes each. So I think those would be worth going back to watch if you want to hear about a specific bowl game that happened previously. But we'll break down a couple of best plays that we thought from, now that we've had some time to digest some of the best plays that we saw, how those plays kind of broke down and things of that nature. So we'll go through that. We'll give some initial thoughts, high-level matchup, strength versus weaknesses for the upcoming semifinals. We'll give a deeper breakdown a little bit later this week, and then we've got some transfer portal updates. So, Aaron, we'll start with the overall thoughts on the quarterfinals. What did you what did you think?
Yeah. So, you take a look back and you think about how everybody was talking about rush or recovery for those teams that are in the bye weeks, right? We see it was a little bit more rust than recovery as the bye week teams in this new college football playoff era are now 1-7 in the past 2 years. You kind of have to think that the committee is going to do something to either change the length of time these teams are on bye weeks or, reconsider what the reward is because there's an obvious effect on the teams.
I'm thinking we're going to start seeing something to change the conference championship structure, right? Like why even aim to be a conference champion if that's what it's going to lead, like that's it. More than likely that's where your season kind of ends.
Yeah.
I've heard reports where the conference championship weekend is going to be more so a play-in weekend for like the teams that didn't automatically lock up, first place or whatever. And I don't know how that'll help with the bye weeks. I know we saw over the weekend, Dan Lanning, he provided a calendar of how we can reduce the bye weekend or the bye time. We can kind of constrict the schedule so it aligns better with the transfer portal and the school, schedule. I think anything is better than what we've got going on right now. So any change will be welcome, I believe, as long as it helps teams, coaches, and players.
Yeah. This may not be on the horizon right now, but one thing for my people who want to see bigger expanded playoffs, what if they added 4 teams and those bye week
Oh,
teams
so everyone just plays an equal amount of teams, right?
yeah.
I'd take that, honestly. Yeah.
Number 1 seed playing a number 16 seed. It could happen,
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, another thing that I wanted to bring up. So all the remaining teams in the semifinal playoff, all of those head coaches once worked under Nick Saban. So they're Saban prodigies. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool, pretty interesting. That program and that dynasty produced nothing but greatness. And it's spreading to other programs, which is a good thing to see.
Yeah. Doubt we'll ever see a tree like that. Especially with the way coaches get fired left and right these days.
Yeah. It's much faster pace now. Another thing, I think it's fair to say that every team belongs in these 4 spots that are the semifinal because they're all performing at a very high level. Like I can't think of honestly a true huge weakness among these teams right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you later, which team has been impressing you the most so far, but thinking back at like every team that's remaining has impressed me in a different way to various degrees, right? So it's hard to kind of just point it to one. We'll get to that question in a bit, but I thought every team has impressed in some fashion so far. One thing I did want to bring up, I think I saw it yesterday. So Ole Miss, great win in the Sugar Bowl, definitely deserved a win. They took that game from the jaws of defeat. I saw that their running back coach, tight end coach, receivers coach, one of their QB analysts, and maybe one other person. But these were all coaches that were there for Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. But now they're not. Lane Kiffin said they're not allowed to leave Baton Rouge. So Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator, he is the only remaining coach that was supposed to leave for LSU anyway, that will remain with Ole Miss before, whenever their season ends. So while Ole Miss, did have an impressive win, their team did get a little bit weaker, even with a win. Now that they're losing some continuity in terms of like the coaching. I think that is a very unique situation. That's not something we've seen, right? Especially in the last couple of years, or even over the last 10 years with the college football playoffs. But coaches like being held hostage like this is not a thing that we typically see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they just keep getting hurdle after hurdle after doing these amazing things this season, and it's just like I've never seen a team get penalized so much, and they're in this position of winning. Right? It's
I wonder how much of it, not necessarily self-inflicted, but like how vindictive Lane Kiffin is being for being like, they did the whole ultimatum, like, we need this decision by this date or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know how they could have handled that situation better, so that Lane Kiffin maybe could have been less kind of seeking revenge or something. I don't know. I don't know how that's
Yeah,
going,
that's
but
fair.
yeah, without knowing further details, it's just all speculative at that point.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to the question that I was, kind of alluding to, Aaron. Which team has been impressing you the most so far this season? I'll start first. Miami. I think if I have to choose one, I think I'll choose Miami. They knocked off Ohio State. Their defense was able to rack up 5 sacks. They had that amazing pick six early at some point in the first half. We'll review that play in a little bit. And ultimately, Carson Beck, we've seen him at his high, we've seen him at his low, but he completed 13 consecutive passes in that game. He set a Cotton Bowl record, but he defied the mistake-prone, Carson Beck allegations that even we predict. Like, it was a big if statement, but we were like, if that's the Carson Beck that shows up, then they have no chance. He beat those allegations. They beat Ohio State, and now they're off to a semifinal college football game.
Yep.
Aaron, to you, which team has been impressing you the most so far this season, postseason?
Yeah, I'd have to say Indiana. They were the one team that finally broke the bye week curse, and I think it's just because they're truly a dominant one seed. They did so against Alabama, and Alabama came off of that amazing 17-0 comeback win against a good Oklahoma defense, and we see Alabama comes in this game and they just can't get a single thing going. Um, Indiana looks like they're not missing a beat, even though they had that key defensive lineman get injured in the celebration. It's like he wasn't even like, you forgot to mention, oh, they're missing one of their star defensive linemen because Alabama didn't score a touchdown. So, um, I'm honestly a little nervous for Oregon just because of how better Indiana looks versus how they, may have performed during the regular season. Like and that's hard to say for a team that's undefeated, but they look even stronger.
Yeah. Big Ten, very well represented in the playoffs in general, but here in the semifinals, they have half the teams left. And that will be a Big Ten rematch on one side of the playoffs. Let's go to the other side real quick. We got Ole Miss versus Miami. There are a couple of Ole Miss and Miami plays that I actually want to look over with you. So, from the quarterfinals, these were the most. I picked 3 plays that were the most like exciting to watch, Aaron. One of them was two of them was for Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss, on 3rd and 7, he almost commits a self-inflicted safety, but then he's able to get a first down from there. There's another play where UGA has a single high safety, and he's able to immediately diagnose and get a 40-yard kind of bomb and get a first down to help the kicker seal the win. And then there's the pick six by Keontae Scott in the Miami Ohio State game. So just want to go through those plays with you, get your thoughts, and just to hear some scheme stuff that you're seeing from each of these teams. All right, so this first play here. Yeah, it's gonna be Trinidad Chambliss. He scrambles and he's able to find his man somehow. But let's take a look here real quick.
Yeah.
Well, you tell me what do you see off the top of the bat?
Yeah, so to set the kind of the tone or how we got here in this moment in time, Trinidad Chambliss, he's obviously been doing his thing all game, you know, knifing through the defense. And so it looks like at this time, Georgia, they got 5 guys, 6 guys creeping up towards the line. They want to pressure Trinidad on 3rd and 7. They don't want to give him any time to pierce through the defense, right? Make him hurry up and throw it and trust your defense to guard for a little bit of time. Um, Run the play. Yep, they even send a corner on a blitz, right? He's blitzing, and then we just see something happen that's just unbelievable. Trinidad just shows true athleticism and outruns 2 defensive linemen and a cornerback, right?
Yeah. I don't know how. I mean, this is me in retrospect. So I don't know how this would have worked out. Obviously, if I go back, all right. So right here,
Mhm.
it is 2 defensive linemen, so they are a little bit slower than Dalen Everett's going to be. But I'm wondering if Dalen Everett sees that he's got 2 guys to the left.
Should yeah,
What if he cuts right to like try to cut him off? You know, kind of like a chess move.
take a better
But
aim.
yeah, but this happened so fast. I'm not gonna blame him for not seeing that, but I'm just thinking like, what if he did recognize that and cut off this way, just so you can kind of hone in on the king piece
See,
in this chess analogy.
that's a fair point, but I'm gonna say that's so uncommon for this day and age to see a quarterback reverse field like that, and I think this is what we expected out of, um,
Gunner.
a Lenora Sellers, right, this
Okay.
year. This
Yeah.
is what we expected out of a Caden Salters this year. Quarterbacks to do that. Trinidad was not on our radar to do that this year.
Very fair. Yeah.
And when I saw him make this play, they got the first down because KJ Bolden, he tried to come up and pop the receiver, but he didn't wrap up. I was like, oh my gosh, this kind of feels like 2018, 2015, 2016 Alabama doing things just freakish like plays against Georgia, right? If you're a
Yeah.
Georgia fan, I'm sure at this point in time in the game, you're like, oh my gosh, this is not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So great play by Trinidad Chambliss. We got a whole list of them to go through. No, just last one. And so here, this is the one where he's able to get the first down to set them up for the game winning field goal.
Yep.
Um, I do notice that UGA they change up they show one thing and then right before the play they do something else. So what are they showing here? And then I'll let it play and then or here
Yeah.
this is what they
So
show and then this is
they,
what
sh-
they change to. So
they showed 2 safeties high. Looks like they were going
yeah,
to keep everything in front, maybe run a coverage two zone, 2 safeties over the top. And as the play is getting ready to progress, they walk one safety down. Looks like they're showing that blitz again. We're not going to give you time, Trinidad. We're going to make you make a perfect throw, right? As the play gets closer to the play call snap, you could see they're going cover 0. So it's every man, everybody picks up a man, and everybody else is blitzing and trying to get after the quarterback. And then that's when the slot receiver going one-on-one against DeMello Jones runs a fade,
so
and
Trinidad
somehow,
Trinidad had to find that one-on-one matchup that he liked immediately, right?
yes, and he had to throw a perfect dot. He ended up doing that, and the guy was open by 3 or 4 yards. That's the nail in the coffin for Georgia right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat a team when they're able to do things that perfect because he had 2 seconds to throw the ball and he knew exactly where he needed to go. Right.
Yeah. What could UGA have done better in that situation to try and keep things in front of them?
Um, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but maybe make the DBs aware, hey, don't give up anything that huge. Don't let anything get behind you like that because they have zero timeouts, right? If we're able to just keep them on this side of the 50-yard line, we're in good shape.
Mhm.
But again, hindsight's 2020. He might have been looking for the receiver trying to run a little inside route or run, something that's going to be short and get them the first down. But Old Miss took the risk. They threw the bomb. If he didn't complete the pass, we'd be talking a totally different scenario right here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but absolutely outstanding game by Trinidad. He had a bunch of dots like this throughout the game.
Cool. Well, let's flip the game real quick to the Cotton Bowl, Ohio State versus Miami. So
Mm,
this play actually comes right after a great, actually let's just go ahead and watch it. A great grab by Jeremiah Smith.
yep.
We thought he would have an MVP level kind of performance. He was at times.
hmm
And then Miami kind of shut it all down. So here he grabs a,
He did double move, got
yeah.
open in the middle of the field, doing Jeremiah Smith things. I thought the momentum was going to be all Ohio State on this drive. I was like, okay, they're finding their footing. And then next thing you know, they're running a bubble screen, and the DB just reads it perfectly.
The
Goes,
what impressed me real quick, Aaron, what impressed me here was how quickly everyone was able to diagnose everything going on here.
hmm
Um, I want to point out two players. Ruben Bain here,
yep,
he's coming off the edge. He immediately recognizes that the running back doesn't have the ball, and so quickly moves back towards the quarterback,
mhm,
reducing his time to make a decision. And then Keontae Scott, oh shit, and then Keontae Scott, he he immediately knows what Jeremiah Smith is trying to do and knows he's not getting the ball, and
yep.
then goes to the guy that's getting the screen pass.
hmm I will say, it was somewhat risky because he broke on the ball and not towards the receiver. So if he misses that ball, maybe the receiver goes for big plays. But he got there in time, broke 5 yards in front of the route. Boom, he's gone. Momentum is completely all Hurricanes.
Look at it, and the look at the Ohio State sideline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. Miami, man, they played with that swagger the entire game and confidence, right? Everybody had them counted out. This is the biggest point spread, and they just came in and shut everybody up.
that was crazy. So appreciate kind of breaking down those cool plays from the quarterfinals. Let's go ahead and move forward, right? Let's do an overview of what's to come this week in the semifinals. So we have the Peach Bowl here in Atlanta, and then we have the Fiesta Bowl that's out in Glendale, Arizona. So um, let's start with the Peach Bowl, right? So another rematch in this postseason. First time around, Indiana and Oregon played. It was in Oregon. Indiana came out of there 30-20 win the first time they played. First time Dan Lanning, he was very aggressive in this game. That ended up leading to they went 0-2 on fourth down inside Indiana territory. So they had a lot of plays. They ended up with more yards than Indiana in that game, but they just came up with a lot of empty possessions. And One thing that really impressed me in that game was Indiana's offensive line. They allowed 0 sacks against an Oregon offensive line that had been averaging 3.5 sacks a game up until that point. So, Aaron, just off top, what will the Ducks and Dan Lanning have to do differently this time if they want to win the Peach Bowl?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one thing they'll definitely have to do differently is protect Dante Moore a little bit better. He got sacked 6 times the first game against this team. If that happens again, I'm sure he'll feel rattled. And there's going to be a lot of disruption on their progress on drives. So they have to protect him, give him time to make those great throws he's been making in the playoffs so far. Um, Oregon, they had more yards per play in the first game. They just didn't have the outcome and points that they needed. So they need to score and be more effective when they're in these opportunities to get close to the red zone and even if it's a field goal, they've got to figure out a way to score better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the last thing they need to do, Indiana is averaging more than 34 minutes per game in terms of ball control. So they are the boa constrictor, if you will. They're able to control the game because they always have the ball. So Oregon's got to limit how many times Mendoza has the ball in his hands throughout this game, right? If they're able to control, if they're able to establish their run game better this game,
Yeah.
hey, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, those are all really good points. Obviously, easier said than done. Indiana's a really good team, so it's hard to kind of pull those stats away from them. I was looking at some more stats: scoring offense, scoring defense. Indiana scores about 3 more points per game. They allow about 4 less points a game. Indiana's plus 14 on takeaway margin, plus 14 versus Oregon's plus 9. Third down percentage, Indiana's ranked second with 54%. Oregon's ranked 12th with 48%. All these stats are, when it comes to points, it leans Indiana. I don't know. I mean, we talked about what Oregon has to do differently. They're going to have to come into this game with a whole different mindset. They have to reduce that time of possession that Fernando Mendoza has the ball, but yeah, we'll dive a little bit deeper into which strengths, which weaknesses each team can kind of like lean into. But both teams have been looking excellent so far in the playoffs. In the quarterfinals, these teams have combined for 61 points and have only allowed 3, which is crazy. Um, is there, Aaron, for you, is there a specific unit on either of these teams that stick out to you the most that will provide the edge in this ultimate rematch?
Sure. So I'm thinking it's going to have to be Oregon's defensive unit, right? They're gonna have to make sure they minimize how effective this Indiana run game is. Everybody talks about Mendoza all year, but I think they're gonna have to figure out a way to stop these guys for Indiana who they almost had 200-yard rushers last game. If they're able to stop the run game, make Mendoza a little bit more heroic in this game, I think it'll work in their favor.
For me, my answer is Indiana's offensive line. They've done a great job of protecting Mendoza so far this season. The center won the Rose Bowl offensive MVP. You could say Mendoza won the Heisman because of how great his offensive line has been, but I think as long as they continue their dominance, especially against a great Oregon defensive line, part of what you said, I think Indiana will be able to recreate their success that they found in Oregon earlier this year. But that's the unit that I'm looking at to for Indiana to lean on in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So we're gonna move on to the other side of the bracket, to the Fiesta Bowl. Two unlikely teams are facing off with, nothing but emotion and chips on their shoulders, right? Miami, they have not been this close to a national championship glory since their 2002, sorry, runner-up appearance, right? Um, Ole Miss has been in a drought even longer, with their last championship being in 1962. Um, the adversity they face is a head coach leaving them in the middle of their most successful season during the college football playoff era, right? Um, a high-powered offense in Ole Miss is set to face off a very athletic Miami defense in what should be, one of the most physical playoff games we see this year. My question is, I'm going star on star. Can Ruben Bain rattle and contain Trinidad Chambliss, right? Um, Oregon, I mean, not Oregon, Ole Miss, they rank third in the nation in passing yards, while Miami is ranked fourth in points allowed on defense, but is more mid tier in passing yards allowed per game. I'm interested to see which of these statistics will stand consistent in this game. It's going to be interesting. In terms of weakness, we know the offensive production for Miami has been a concern. Maybe not necessarily a weakness, but a concern. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Carson Beck, Carson Beck will have to be more productive, just like he proved in the Ohio State game, in order to win this game. Right? Um, what supporting cast should he use in order to make this task work again?
Yeah, this side of the bracket, I will say teams, especially on the defense side, have like they're a little less balanced. Indiana and Oregon, they're balanced on offense, they're balanced on defense in terms of pass, rush, all that stuff. On this side, yeah, just like you said, Miami's a little bit softer on pass yards allowed per game. Ole Miss is a little bit soft on run yards per game. When UGA was finding a lot of success, it was on the ground with Nate Frazier and crew. So I think here, Miami will have to definitely pound the ball, on the ground. Mark Fletcher Jr. comes to mind. Malachi Tony, yes, he's a wide receiver, but he can kind of do it all. Shamar Brown, but these guys need to be utilized heavily and not only balance the attack, but like don't shy away from running it.
Fair, fair, fair. Honing in on those weaknesses, it's fair to say that if there's a weakness for Ole Miss, it's on their defense, right? I will say their front seven, they showed a lot of growth in these past
Yeah,
two playoff games,
yeah.
and at times in their passing game. But they still, however, gave up 344 total yards of offense and 34 points. I think in order to win this game, they'll need to bring the same physicality to the trenches. And if you don't, you'll end up like Ohio State in the quarterfinals, and you'll get bullied against Miami. And then Miami will establish that run game just like they did that time. Um, and if that happens, if they get bullied and they establish that run game, it opens up the game for Carson Wentz to make him feel comfortable and, make plays off of play action and start running the ball and running folks over like he did against Ohio State. Which would be interesting to see again.
Yeah.
Um, I'm expecting a great game, but Mash, who do you think is going to be more physical? Which team?
Um, I think physical wise, I think Miami has the physical edge, but like Ole Miss hasn't been winning off of physicality this year. They've been winning off of like finesse, and Quan Lacey is he's not a bruiser type. He's hard to just bring down. He can catch the ball, right? So he's just a very like talented player of football, not necessarily he's bigger than you. And then their wide receivers can just are just fast and can get open. So I think Miami will be the more physical team. Will that be enough to beat Ole Miss? That's something we're going to have to dive into a little bit deeper as we look into more stats.
Fair, fair, fair. Okay. Moving on, getting away from the playoffs, we're going to look at everybody else and what's happening in the transfer portal, what teams are doing to potentially build their teams for next year. Um, First one I see, Lincoln Kienholz, the Ohio State backup QB, right? It's been reported that he transfers to Louisville. That's a pretty good pickup for them. I've also seen that the record-setting QB from North Texas, Drew Mestemaker, he's going to follow his head coach to Oklahoma State. Um, they're going to make some noise up there. They're going to be a much different team than they were this year. And then we still have some free agents on the board, right? A lot of guys are just announcing their names and making visits. Cam Coleman, he will be the wide receiver that everybody goes after. I think I've already seen that he may have some visits to like Texas and other big schools. I know Georgia's name's in there. It's going to be interesting to see where he lands. Uh, QB1 in the transfer portal, Sam Levitt. You got something?
I was gonna say, you mentioned Texas. I was surprised to see how many people like all the players leave
Mm-hmm.
Texas. Wingo comes to mind. All those guys. I'm blanking on the names right now, but haven't
Parker
seen where. Say it again.
Parker Livingstone. I think I saw
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I saw that he's actually Livingstone. He's pointed towards Indiana. I think he might get picked up by the Sig over there. So anyway, yeah, crazy to see that Texas is losing a lot of the weapons, especially with Arch saying that he's going to be back next year. But Cam Coleman for Texas would be a great pickup for sure.
Absolutely. And you got number one quarterback from Arizona State, Sam Levitt. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. He's an explosive, exciting player. And then, of course, DJ Lagway, quarterback from Florida. He took a visit to Florida State over the weekend. I'm
Man,
expecting.
what Florida to Florida State? Like you did this 10 years ago, people would murder you if you did something
Yes,
like this.
exactly. I was expecting him to look somewhere else closer to home out of state, but You never know what could happen.
Can he just not handle the SEC grind?
Time will tell. We'll see. Um, and then lastly, we have Dylan Raiola, right? Um, we had him, according to On Three, looking at interest in Oregon, Louisville, even though they just picked up that quarterback, the backup from Ohio State, and Arizona State. So
I think before he transferred to Buford, he was in the Arizona area, so Arizona State makes sense. Dan Lanning loves his transfer quarterbacks. Oregon makes sense. So, um, yeah, will be interesting to watch where he goes and tries to transform their program. All right, cool. Well, appreciate the kind of breakdown there, Aaron, on what's going on in the transfer portal. Maybe we'll have some more solid details later this week, but we will be back Thursday to give previews for the Peach Bowl and Fiesta Bowl, and yeah, and what's looking ahead for us for the rest of the season. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you guys next time.